Mercedes Hopewell, and this video is going to go through some of the basic functions of Photoshop Pro. Photoshop is a great program to use to create posters and advertisements. This could be vitally important to the marketing in a library setting. Say you're going to create a program for the library. You want to advertise for this program to maximize participation. An easy way to do this is to create posters for the event that then you can share online or at the library. Photoshop is going to give you the tools needed to accomplish this. So let's say you're going to create a program. The Hunger Games is receiving huge interest in press right now. The books are also very popular. So at the library you decide to have a week-long program with activities for teens, book discussions for adults, and at the end of the week you're going to show the movie. So you want to create a poster advertising that your library is going to show this movie. Using Photoshop is an easy way to accomplish this that won't infringe on copyright. So, how are we going to go about creating this poster? There are many different kinds of posters with different art styles, some more complicated than others. The easiest posters to make are those that are simple. Minimalist posters can be a truly amazing poster style. Some are ingenious with their simple designs that spark the flavor of the movie or concept you are trying to project. They can be very clever and convey a more complex idea in just a few shapes and colors. Minimalist posters are also the easiest to accomplish in Photoshop. So going back to the original idea of creating a Hunger Games poster for the library, we may want to create a minimalist poster. The best way to come up with a minimalist poster idea is to think of attributes, objects, or people that describe the movie. So going back to our original idea of creating a Hunger Games poster, we might want to think of some of the attributes or objects that are in those books. Some of the attributes could be bows and arrows, the Mockingjay pen, and Katniss. Okay, so for this poster, I've decided to pick the attribute, the bow and arrow, to incorporate. So I just went, and this is Photoshop. What we're going to do first is we're going to want to open a new file. So we're going to go up here to File and click New. And then you're going to get this box that's going to pop up. And what we're going to want to change in this box is the resolution. We want to change that to 300. Just because it's going to make sure nothing's pixelated if we blow up the image to a large size for a poster. So we're going to click OK. And then we have this nice little canvas. Now I've changed the proportions on mine. Yours may not look like this. So you're going to want to go up to Image and click Canvas Size. And you're going to want to change that to 8.5 by 11, and that's just a good starting off point for your poster. You can always go back and change your canvas size if you want it bigger or smaller later on. So we're going to go ahead and click OK. Now this is really zoomed in, so what we're going to want to push to zoom out of this field is we're going to want to push Control and 0, and now we have a nice canvas. So now that we have our canvas, we can go ahead and start working on our poster. Now, we had talked previously about using the bow and arrow in our design. So I went out to Google and found free clip art. And we're going to use this as a template to the silhouette we are going to create in the poster. Now, we're not actually going to be, we're just using this as a stencil really. So we can go ahead and just import this into Photoshop by Control-C to copy and Control-V to paste it into Photoshop. And now we have our image in Photoshop. Now before we start vectoring this image, we want to go ahead and create a new layer. And we can do that by coming down here to the New Layer button, which is located next to the Trash button. And now we've created a new layer that we can start working on, and we want to vector this image. Now vectoring is really important. Once we vector the image, no matter how big we blow up the picture or how small, the picture will not become distorted and it won't become pixelated. So we can go ahead and start vectoring, and we want to first zoom in on the picture. We can do that using a little magnifying glass. And we're going to just want to vector the bottom half of the bow following the curves. And we can do this by using our pen tool located here. And then we can start creating points. If you click, you'll create a point. And the pen tool automatically wants to create straight lines, however this bow is curved. So to create a curved line, you're going to want to click and hold and then drag that line to where you need it to be. So once we have that line, we want to get rid of this curve though. So we can get rid of the curve in the line by pressing Alt and clicking in the center. And now we can either create, our next point will either be a straight line or a curved line. And if we just follow the dimensions or the line of this bow all the way around, and we're just going to follow it, and we're just going to follow the bottom half of this bow for right now. And I've went ahead and followed it in another window. Now I haven't closed this path yet, and I did that because I want to show you how you close a path. Now I vectored all the way up to here and down the bottom half of this bow, and now I'm going to close the path. And I can do that by clicking on the first point we made in our work path. And this will close the path. Now if we change our window from layers to paths, we'll see we have a work path now. And if we go ahead and right click on work path, and then we click on fill path, we can fill the area we just created. Now we can fill it with color or black or white or whatever, but for right now I'm just going to go ahead and say fill with black. And now the bottom half of that bow is filled in. Now that the bottom half of the bow is filled in, we can go ahead and get rid of this work path. And we can do that by dragging the work path down to the trash can. And then we want to go ahead and change back to layers. And now the path that we had filled in is on layer 2 and not on that first layer. Now, since we've went ahead and already vectored the bottom half of this bow, we don't technically need to also vector the top half of the bow. What we can do instead is click the Move tool, which will select the second layer, and we'll make a copy of this second layer. And we can make a copy by pushing Ctrl J. And then we can take the second layer off, and we're going to flip this layer so it will become the top half of the bow. And we can do that by right-clicking, and making sure we select Flip Vertical. And then we can go ahead and move this to where we need it to be at the top of the bow. And this way, the top and the bottom half of the bow will be symmetrical. And then we just want to go ahead and push the check mark. So we've made those changes. And now that we have the top and the bottom half of the bow done, we can go ahead and start vectoring the rest of it. So we want to just go ahead and create a new layer. And creating new layers is always a good thing. It makes sure that if you mess up with one, you can always just delete that. And we can just go ahead and start vectoring this arrow. And remember that the pen tool always wants to create straight layers, so we shouldn't have an issue creating that straight line for the arrow. And once you follow the arrow all the way around, we can just go ahead and close this layer again. And we're on a separate layer. I'm on layer 3. And then we want to go to paths, and we want to fill the path with black. And now we can see that the arrow is done. And we want to make sure we get rid of this work path. And then we're going to want to go ahead and create another layer for the middle part of the bow. And we can go ahead and just connect these two pieces. Making sure we're on another layer. And then we're going to fill the work path. And then delete the work path. And now we have a silhouette of a bow and arrow. Now, we also want to make sure we get the bowstrings done. And to do that, we're going to have to select once again another layer. And instead of using the pen tool for this, I can actually use my shape tool, which is located here. And if you left click, you'll see you can make rectangles, squares, there's custom shapes. I'm going to choose the line tool, and I'm just going to follow the bowstring that's here. And this is going to create a work path for me, which then I can also fill in like I did the vectoring. We'll get rid of that, create a new layer, and get the other side of this. And now we have a complete outline of a bow and arrow that we can work with. Now, before we do anything else, we actually want to go ahead and merge all the different layers together, and we can do that by clicking, Shift and clicking Shift and then clicking the top layer and the bottom layer that we want to merge all those together, and then we can right click, and then we're going to want to select Merge Layers. And now this is all on one layer, and I can move this silhouette around to wherever I need it to be. Now, we want to get rid first of that first layer we used that we were using like a stencil. And we can do that by taking that to the trash can. Now, since I did this fast, I have some white space, and I can just go back over that and use my pen tool to create another vector, just so that's connected. You can okay, and this isn't cleaned up yet, but I will show you how to use the eraser and the paint tool to fix some of those mistakes that you may make along the way. But first, we're going to go ahead and select a new layer, and we want to go ahead and create a background for this image. Now, the white is kind of boring, and so what you could do is maybe incorporate some of the colors of the book jacket into your poster. And we can actually select colors in Photoshop by using the eyedropper tool located here. Now, there's two different ways you can sample the color. You can use the color sampling tool, which will then show you the exact specifications of that color, what goes into it in this window. Or you can use what I like to use, which is the eyedropper tool, which will let you see all the different colors in that image. And so I'm just going to go ahead and select a yellow that I like. And when I select that yellow, it also is going to change it here so you know what color you've selected. And then I can just go back to my original poster, and I can use the paint bucket tool located here. I can select paint bucket. Now, you see I just covered my entire image, and I did this for a specific reason. I wanted to show you that you can actually change the layer order in this box by dragging layers above each other. And so now I have that golden color as my background, and the bow is up on the front. And now that I have my bow and arrow, and I have my background color, I can go ahead actually and start adding text to this picture. And you can do that by using the text tool located here. And whenever you click using the text tool, you're going to automatically spark a new layer. It just does that automatically. And so as you can see, it says layer 8, and it did that on its own, so you don't actually need to create a new layer when you're using the text tool. So, but right now I have that golden color still selected because I just used the paint bucket tool, so we want to change that, and we can do that several different ways. You could use the swatches up here, and I could just pick a black, and then when I picked that black, it changed it here, and it changed it here, so you know what color I'm using. And I could just go ahead and start writing the Hunger Games. Obviously, this is a little bigger than what we would want, so if we go ahead and highlight this, we can change the font size, we can change the font type, and I'm going to go ahead and make that smaller, and then you can just push the little check mark, and then you'll be able to pull the font around to wherever you want it to go. So now that we have that done, we can go ahead and add whatever else we want to our poster. We could add the name of our library, where the event is being held, anything that would be helpful to someone wanting to participate in the event. So now that we have most of our poster done, there may be a couple of things we want to do also, such as if we've made mistakes where we need to go over with the eraser. And this is the eraser tool, and if you click it, it will pop up, and you can change the dimensions of the eraser by going up here and clicking what kind of paintbrush you want to use for it. I'm just going to click this, and I'm going to select a very small eraser. I've made a couple mistakes in this poster, and if I zoom in, I can see that this line is crossing this one, and I want to get rid of that. So I can actually use my eraser tool to select. You first need to select the layer that the image you want to erase is on, and then you can just go ahead and erase that top part. And you can do this at any level you need to, just to clean the image up a little bit. And once you have cleaned up the image, and maybe you also realize that you needed some more black in some parts, like, you can click the brush tool and do the same process with it. And I'm just going to select a very small pixel, and then I could zoom in and I could see that this is not connected. And I could go ahead and connect that using my brush tool if I wanted to. And now it's a little bit more well formed. And once you have your image cleaned up with everything that you want on it, you can go ahead and save this image. And you want to click Save As, and then there's many different types of format you can save in. If you're going to make this a poster, you may want to save it as a JPEG format. And when you save that, you want to say quality 12 maximum. You want to click OK. And now it's going to be saved as a JPEG as well, that you can go ahead and open at any point. This is another one that I've done, a cleaned up image. And then you can make this image as big or as small as you need to by using that canvas size tool we had talked about in the very beginning. So we can change the dimensions any way we need to fit it on a poster. So once again, this is the cleaned up version of the Hunger Games poster I have created. I worked really fast during this tutorial in Photoshop because I wanted to show you the most functionality I could. However, vectoring takes a long time. To have good Photoshop takes time. So there's a couple of things you want to remember when working in Photoshop. First, go slow. I went really fast in Photoshop showing you these techniques. Going slow will make sure you make fewer mistakes and have more precise lines and designs. Second, it's okay to make mistakes. That's what the delete and eraser options are for. By creating many layers, mistakes are more easily erased and fixed. And 3, experiment with the different tools in Photoshop. What I showed you in this tutorial is only a small portion of the different functions available. There are some truly amazing capabilities that Photoshop has. Located below this video is a chart of some of the different keystrokes I used while in Photoshop. Please refer to this chart if you need to remember any of these different commands. And also, below that is a Google survey I have created. This is just a quick quiz over some of the tools I used in Photoshop. It is a small assessment to see if this tutorial helped you learn some of the basic functions of this program. Thank you for watching this video, and if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to use my contact information listed here. As well, you can find it located in the website.